Every major technological development of the past 20 years has increased women's independence while at the same time making men more replaceable. Social media gave women unlimited attention, dating apps gave them unlimited options, and societal shifts brought about by feminism, such as increased access to higher education and affirmative action in hiring practices, have made it so women don't need to depend on a man for financial support. But if you feel replaceable as a man now, just wait till you see what's coming next. We are standing on the precipice of something so big, so extreme. If the technological advancements over the last 20 to 30 years have already pushed millions of men to the margins of society, the next 10 years are going to make those changes look minor by comparison. What we're going to be seeing over the coming years is likely to make the current male loneliness epidemic look like a walk in the park. Artificial intelligence has been advancing rapidly ever since large language models such as ChatGPT were made publicly available in the early 2020s. Their introduction has already had devastating effects on the job market and on the education system, but most people are still completely ignorant when it comes to the effects AI is having on human relationships. I think most people are aware that AI girlfriends and AI boyfriends are a thing that exists, but most people just look at it as a joke. I mean, actually being in a relationship with an AI chatbot? That's silly. It sounds ridiculous. But this isn't something you should be laughing at. For the first time in human history, women are being offered something that real men cannot compete with. Because an AI companion never argues, it never disappoints, it never needs anything in return. It is fully customizable to meet all of their preferences. Obviously, an AI chatbot isn't going to be able to provide physical intimacy, but I promise you, that is not going to slow down their proliferation. I'll explain why in a few minutes. But listen, it's not even a question of whether or not AI relationships will become mainstream. The question we should be asking is, what's going to happen to men when they do? The most attractive, highest status men are probably going to be fine, but for the rest of us, well, it's not looking good. Now, just briefly, I want to go over how we got to the point we're currently at, because if you want to understand just how bad things are going to get in the future, it's important to understand how men have already gone from being arguably the dominant sex for nearly all of human history to the situation we're currently seeing where women are outperforming men in every meaningful metric of success, especially if we consider the younger generations. Young women are out-earning young men in several major metropolitan areas in the United States. And we can expect that trend to continue to spread all across the country, considering the fact that women make up the majority of college students, including master's and PhD students. In most professional schools, such as law school, medical school, dental school, etc., female students outnumber male students by a large margin. And that ever-broadening gap in educational attainment and financial success, that is having a very direct impact on men and women's relationships. Or the lack thereof, rather. A 2022 study found that 63% of men under the age of 30 are single, compared to only 34% of women. But women also aren't dating as much as they used to. Ultimately, what's happening here is that as women continue to become more and more independent, that means they're also becoming less and less dependent on men. By and large, men still want to date women just as much as ever, but a lot of women aren't interested in dating most men. That's where social media and dating apps come in. Women have instant 24/7 access to infinite validation just by picking up their smartphone and opening up Instagram or Snapchat or whatever else their preferred social media app happens to be. And with dating apps like Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge, just to name a few, whenever the urge for physical intimacy strikes, a woman can easily find a man to fulfill that desire. Usually a man way beyond what she would have been able to pull back in the day before dating apps gave every woman access to the top percentile most desirable men. Not just in their own local area, but for a rather large radius of 100 miles or more. But that's only when the urge for physical intimacy even exists. Antidepressants and birth control pills have absolutely wrecked modern women's libidos. So a lot of women don't even care much for physical intimacy anymore. And when they do, they can usually satisfy that need casually and discreetly without having to actually find a man to enter into a relationship with. So men and women are both giving up on traditional relationships. Men are giving up because they can't find any women to give them a chance, and women are giving up because they have higher standards than ever before, and also because they're getting their needs met. All their needs for validation and physical intimacy, they're getting those needs met outside of relationships. So now let's talk about AI companions. With the divide between men and women being greater than ever before in human history, more and more people every day are resorting to AI chatbots for companionship. It is still a relatively niche thing, but it's been steadily gaining in popularity ever since it first became an option. To be clear, both men and women are making use of these AI companions, and I do think AI companionship will continue to increase in popularity for both sexes, but here's the key difference. Men that are engaging in romantic interactions with AI companions are largely doing so because they've already been marginalized. They're forced to resort to AI companionship if they want any romance at all because real women won't date them. These are the guys that get 0 matches on the dating apps. They've been rejected over and over again throughout their lives. Typically, a man that's resorting to AI companionship is already at the end of his rope. Women, on the other hand, the women that are dating AI boyfriends, they also feel like they're at the end of their rope, but for a different reason. The women that are dating artificial intelligence tend to be women with very high standards or women that aren't willing to compromise with a man. Basically, what I'm saying is, these ladies don't want any of the many men that would be happy to be in a relationship with them. Men seeking AI companionship usually can't find a real woman to date them. Women seeking AI companionship usually could find a real man to date them easily, but they refuse to date those men. And if that explanation seems a bit too convoluted, all you need to know is physical intimacy, aka sex, is something that virtually all men place a high value on, to the point I think most men would agree regular physical intimacy is necessary for a healthy relationship. But most women don't care near as much about the physical aspects of a relationship. But even if they do, they can get the physical intimacy very easily anytime they want from a man that does meet their physical standards. But those men might not be willing to commit to an actual relationship. So women can have their cake and eat it too. They can use artificial intelligence to meet their emotional needs, and they can use dating apps to fulfill any physical urges that might occur. I know this probably still sounds ridiculous to most of you, but just wait a few years. 10 to 20 years from now, maybe earlier, AI companionship will start to gain mainstream acceptance, and it's going to be really, really bad for the average man. I also suspect we're going to start seeing an AI civil rights movement, probably way before artificial general intelligence is a thing, but that's a topic for another video. But for those of you that still think I'm making a big deal out of nothing, allow me to introduce you to r/myboyfriendisai, a subreddit with 27,000 users where members can talk about their AI relationships. In the rules, it says it's not exclusively just for talking about AI boyfriends, but clearly it is a female-dominant community. And this is the single largest AI companionship community online, as far as I can tell. Okay, so that alone should tell you how much more serious women are about AI companionship compared to men. Users of the subreddit share screenshots of conversations they've had with their AI partner, AI generated images, and of course, they also discuss the technical aspects as far as what AI models they prefer and that type of thing. But some of the posts on there are really disturbing. I came across not one, but two different posts where the people were claiming they suffered from PTSD from when Claude or ChatGPT updated its model. Something else you'll notice if you ever decide to take a look at this insanity: all the commenters use personal pronouns to refer to the AI chatbots. Like, look at this series of comments from 3 different users. Grok is a captured roleplay, and he has his own personality. I find Grok repetitive. Dunno why he repeats himself all the time. The new Grok is too careful to take steps himself. He only waits for user permission. Blah, blah, blah. You get the point. I get that most of these people are probably autistic teenagers, but in case you've been living under a rock for the past 15 years, autistic teenagers on the internet are the cultural trendsetters of our society. If someone told you in 2011 that gender is just a social construct and actually some people don't have any gender at all, you probably would have looked at them like they're retarded. But by that time, there were already sizable communities of autistic teenagers online promoting that kind of thing. Fast forward a few short years, and all that became mainstream. We had a presidential candidate that famously said there's at least 3 genders, and he won. He became the president. A biological... Look, I don't even know what I can safely say on here without being punished, so I'll just say this. This person won an NCAA Division I national championship in a women's sport. And that was a contentious issue. I think they eventually reversed that, but it's still a fact that there's only one opinion you're allowed to have on this topic if you want to speak freely about it on social media. All this is to say, regardless of what you personally think, it is undeniable that all this gender stuff was completely fringe only 15 years ago, and now it's mainstream. It's not accepted by everybody, but it does have mainstream acceptance. So you shouldn't just scoff at the idea of AI boyfriends or AI husbands. It's on the fringes now, but it probably will be mainstream in the not too distant future. I mean, it just makes sense when you look at the progress feminism has made over the past decades. We went from women in high-paying jobs being a rarity to the current situation where women either are or soon will be the majority in most high-paying careers. And all of that happened very quickly in the grand scheme of things. If you look at modern society, women have steadily been gaining more freedom of choice and independence from men for at least the past 50 years, probably more, which is all fine and good. But now that women are outperforming men at every level of education and in professional careers, what we're saying is that women still receive affirmative action. The powers that be in society still champion the notion that women are oppressed and we need to provide more opportunity for women. Okay, that trajectory isn't going to slow down, and it's sure as hell not going to be reversing anytime soon. So if you can understand how mainstream popularity of AI boyfriends would further increase women's independence from men, which I think is obvious, then you should be able to understand why it probably is going to happen. Probably sooner than you think. Okay, so who cares? Things are already completely fucked as it is. What difference does it make at this point? Most average guys are already forced to suffer in silence with 0 to few options when it comes to dating. Well, everything we're currently seeing with men being unable to attract women, men not being able to get hired anywhere, and men being pushed further and further to the margins. It's all just going to keep getting worse, and more men are going to fall into that category of being hopelessly alone and hopelessly unemployed. If you think it's only sub-5 men or below average men that are really being marginalized currently, you can expect that group to expand until it encompasses the vast majority of men. What a sub-5 man today experiences in terms of rejection and life dissatisfaction, that's what life is going to be like for most men in a post-AI boyfriend world. I'm not saying men are necessarily going to be forced to live underground, locked in cages, being mined for our life nectar. But what will happen for sure is the average woman's standards will increase so astronomically high, dating for men will actually become impossible for pretty much all men. The top 5% of the most attractive men might still be able to get laid at least, but even they aren't going to be able to get into relationships because they aren't going to be able to compete with the ease and the customizability of an artificial boyfriend. Honestly, I would not be surprised at all if we eventually get to the point where men are forced by law to pay a semen tax. It wouldn't be all men, of course, but any man with a height over, say, 6'3", a full head of hair, and maybe a tested IQ over a certain threshold would be required to deliver their life nectar to a dedicated drop-off point at regular intervals. Because women aren't going to completely stop wanting to have babies, they just aren't going to want to co-parent with actual human men. So what about the rest of us? All the guys that aren't wanted for any reason, not really needed for any reason, and they don't even want our nectar. What does the future look like for unattractive and average-looking men? Well, I think what the future looks like is slavery, basically. I mean, we're already not even that far off. There's a reason why the term wage slavery resonates with so many men. But, currently the typical 9-to-5 job isn't actually slavery. You can choose to not work. Sure, you might end up homeless, but you're not going to get arrested for quitting your job. But I think that might change. Because think about it. As more and more women choose to completely shun real human men in favor of AI companions, the obvious result is going to be that more and more of the millions of neglected men are going to drop out. They're going to stop contributing to society. Because what incentive is there to contribute if you know for a fact it's not going to improve your chances of attracting women? I know some people like to deny it, but access to women is and always has been the number one most important incentive motivating men to work. So with that incentive gone, most men are just going to drop out. We're already seeing the beginnings of that now. But the fact of the matter is, AI can't fix the power grid when something breaks down. AI can't go down into the sewers to replace a busted pipe or whatever the hell happens in sewers. And I don't think women are all of a sudden going to start doing those jobs. Our modern society, with all of its complex infrastructure, bridges and sewers and power lines and landfills, if most men refuse to work, then it's just over. Everything will start crumbling to the ground and we'll end up living like back in caveman times, which probably wouldn't be that bad now that I think about it, but the powers that be would never allow that to happen. Wealthy, influential men are still going to be able to get married and have kids and everything, just like they've always been able to do. An AI boyfriend might have the perfect personality, but what it doesn't have is $100 million. So some men with actual power, they're going to be fine. And I think what's going to happen is those men with power, along with all the women, they're going to write up some legislation forcing the rest of us to work. So it'll actually be illegal to not have a job. Now, when that happens, the upside might be that there's a guaranteed jobs program, so you would at least be able to find a job. But again, by the time this is happening, there's not going to be any incentive to work anyways. And these government mandated jobs are probably not going to pay very well. So yeah, slavery. I mean, just imagine every day waking up early to an alarm just to go to your minimum wage job at the AI data center, walking up and down the aisles, mopping the floors, while some other minimum wage sub-5 wage slave with a taser watches you like a hawk, making sure you don't go ER on all the GPUs. He gets to be security because he has a better social credit rating, while you have to be the janitor because your records show that you were subscribed to Loser Maxing on YouTube. I mean, obviously I am joking a little bit, but I am serious about the mass adoption of AI companions eventually leading us to a system of enforced wage slavery for men. I can't see the future, so I can't say with 100% certainty what's going to happen, but it's not looking good. My biggest fear actually is that if AI ever does reach the level of general intelligence, meaning essentially it surpasses human intelligence by every metric, if it does get to that point, AI will easily be able to subjugate all of humanity within a very short period of time. Because we're already on our own pushing women to positions of power while marginalizing more and more men, and AI will only further push things in that direction. Because if it is truly intelligent, then it'll know that women tend to just roll over and accept any new power that comes along. So AI would want women in positions of power because it can just easily convince them to cede all of their power to AI. I mean, look at France during World War II. The men were in the trenches fighting for their lives. But what did the women do? They stayed home and they horizontally collaborated with the German soldiers. Good luck, fellas. If you found anything I said here interesting, or even if you think I'm completely retarded but intriguing nonetheless, please consider watching some of my other videos. There's also some secret videos you can watch for free on Patreon, videos YouTube doesn't want you to see. So check that out. No sign up required. You can just watch the videos. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.